How you can invest in real estate property with no money. Today we want to talk about investing in real estate property with no money. One of the ways that you can invest in real estate property with no money is a joint venture strategy. In joint venture strategy, you actually becoming partner with somebody, and he would invest and pay for all the costs, and you would be partner with the guy, and you would make money, and you would make a split based on whatever you agreed with the guy to actually have a contract with. In joint venture strategy, you become partner with your investor and you make a split out of it. For example, let's say you want to buy a property to renovate. You don't have money to do that. So what you would do, you would find an investor to invest for you in that property. He would pay for all the costs. He would pay for down payment. He would pay for land transfer tax. He would pay for property tax. He would pay for all the renovation costs. And at the end of the day, he would make the split, which is usually 50%. Imagine you want to buy a house for $1 million. The renovation cost would be 200, and the closing cost would be almost 100. So altogether, all the expenses would be 500K. And the return for that property for you guys is almost 200. Let's say you bought the land, you bought the property for 1 million, you spent 200K for renovation, closing cost is 100K, so altogether is 1,300,000, and at the end of the day you sell that property for 1,500,000. So you're making 200K profit, and the split would be 50-50, which you make 100K and your investor would make 100K. Out of that 100K, he has to pay a tax, an income tax for almost 30% or 40% based on his income. So imagine he would make 70%, 70,000 out of this investment. So the return for your investor would be 70,000. How much he put in the deal? It was 500K. So the return for this guy would be almost 14% for 4 months, which if you calculate it yearly would be almost 42%. So this is one of the ways that if you have a skill to find a property, to renovate it, and to actually rent it, so this would be the skill that if you could buy a right property for renovation and you renovate the property and you sell it after, you could make a good money with no money as a down payment and as a renovation cost. We are going to actually show you the more ways in other videos how you can invest in real estate and make money with no money. The second strategy that you can invest in Canada with no money is the lending strategy. In lending strategy, you borrow money from somebody to invest in a renovation property or a rental property. Imagine you want to buy a property with an amount of $1 million. You want to spend 200 for renovation, and you want to have 100 for closing costs. So altogether, you need almost 500 to 600K cash in order for you to be able to buy the property, renovate it, and sell it after. If somebody can lend you that money and get an interest instead of that, you would actually pay the guy 25 to 30K as an interest, and he would pay for all the costs, and you would get the property, you would get the profit after you sell the property. If you want to compare this strategy with the joint venture strategy, you would make more money out of the lending strategy, because you would just pay 25 to 30K as a profit to the lender, and you won't have to be partner with somebody and share that 200, which is going to be almost 100K. So if you want to do the renovation, I recommend this strategy because it's almost all the time, almost 4 months for renovation, and it's not going to be more than 6 months. So the interest rate wouldn't be that much for you, and it would be a lot better if you use this strategy instead of joint venture strategy. The other strategy that you can invest in real estate property with no money is VTB, or vendor take back, or seller financing. In that strategy, you would get a loan from the seller as a second mortgage. Imagine you want to buy a property with the amount of $1 million. You have to put down 20% as a down payment. Imagine the seller would agree to pay you that 20K, and you won't have to pay that 20K out of your pocket. In that case, you won't pay a penny to buy that property, and it would be investing with no money for you. But why the seller should give you that money? Usually in commercial property and sometimes in residential property, seller agrees to do that because, first of all, they don't want to pay the capital gain, because if he want to get the lump sum huge amount of money, he might actually be titled to pay the property tax. But if he doesn't get that money in a lump sum amount, he get it as a, let's say, monthly payment, he doesn't have to pay that much tax on top of it. And the second reason would be most of the seller who actually have a payoff property, they rather to actually get that money in a monthly basis with the interest, that they can use that money to go to the trip or do a lot of stuff, because they're usually more than 65 to 70 years old, and they rather to actually spend that money monthly, and they don't want to actually have that money once in a lump sum a month, that they have to pay they have to pay a tax on top of it, and they won't get interest for that property as well, and they can guarantee that money by putting a second mortgage on the property, and they would be safe in that case as well.